on the cake after a great build-up. Both guys just desperate to win. Both teams believe they can't lose, and I can't wait to see the fight tomorrow night. I think it's a 50-50 fight. I really do.
Looking at boxing here, you said about Floyd Mayweather coming here in 2001. You have brought you and your team from Matchroom Boxing here in 2023. What does it mean to you personally to put 19,000 people?
Amazing. I mean, honestly, like when we came here, I thought the bottom bowl is 10,000. If we can get close to filling it up, it'd be amazing. And to sell the whole thing out, 16,000. You'll see the atmosphere in here tomorrow night. It'll be absolutely electric. And that's going to be tough for those guys to deal with as well. I know that both guys have boxed on big stages, but nothing like this before. And I think they're two very sharp, reactive guys. And I think this fight ends by knockout inside 8 rounds.
Is it sold out? Really?
Yeah. We're about to announce it. Yeah.
That's 19, 18,
That's 16,000.
That's 16,000.
Eddie, you said you see it ending in knockout in 8 rounds. How do you see that happening for Haney, who's not thought of as
Because I think Regis will be taking chances in the fight. I think Devin will be stronger at 140. I think he'll be punching harder. And I do think the way that he fights and the way that Regis will be aggressive, if Regis is aggressive, and I think he has to be in the fight, I think Devin can hurt Regis Prograis, but I also know that Regis can hurt Devin Haney. You've seen him hurt at 135, but sometimes you don't know if that extra weight's going to actually give him a little bit more comfort in his chin and his robustness. I think it will, but he's never been hit before like a puncher like Regis Prograis. But he's got to hit him, but we've seen in previous fights, Devin does get hit. And I just think the occasion, you saw it up there, I've never seen Regis like that before. And I've never really seen Devin like that before, so I think tomorrow night, when they make their ring walks, I just feel like it's going to be one of those sharp, reactive fights where, someone's going to be sharp enough to hurt someone, and it could be early.
Eddie, we're going to have a classic tomorrow.
I think so. I mean, look, I can only give you the build-up and hope that the fight delivers, but I don't see how it doesn't deliver.
Eddie, Regis seemed pretty fired up coming off the stage. What do you think he's at mentally?
I think exactly where you want to be. You want to be fired up. I mean, look, he's got over 24 hours to calm himself down. I mean, he wasn't erratic and smashing things up backstage, but he's pumped up for the fight. Don't forget, Regis feels like boxing owes him this. I feel like he's the one who says, I deserve to be on this stage. I've been dedicated to this sport for a long time. I've had my ups and my downs. It's time for me to go and earn my 8 figures or whatever against Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez and all the big leagues. And this is the fight that breaks him through. Devin feels like this is a natural progression, but you're in with a guy with a chip on his shoulder in Regis Prograis, and that makes him very dangerous.
You honestly believe that the winner of this is going straight for those big names like Tank?
I think the winner of this is the big name. Okay. You show me all those, you talk about Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez. They can't sell 3,000, 4,000. I mean, I don't know what Shakur sold in Vegas. Less than 2,000. 1,800. He's an amazing fighter. But the excuse used to be about Devin Haney, he just doesn't sell. But what happens when he goes to a new city that doesn't even host boxing and sells 16,000? And that's down to Regis as well, but Devin is bringing these fans from the Bay Area, so all of a sudden that excuse doesn't really exist anymore. And people like Teofimo Lopez, I've done a fight with Teofimo Lopez, the undisputed lightweight world championship. We just sold out the theatre. And when he boxed Josh Taylor for the unified championship at 140, they didn't even sell out the theatre. And that's a massive fight. So, people have got to get realistic with the draw that they are. And I think the work that Devin's done and is now showing, he's become that draw.
Eddie, you mentioned Teofimo. What about Tank Davis' team? Do you think Tank Davis' team will see that, like you showed 16,000 from now that he can't sell?
I just think Gervonta's going to do what Gervonta, they always want to keep it in-house. And who knows the actual finances of the Amazon deal, how that works, what they need. But all those guys are going to need the winner of this fight. Because you've seen what they're going to do. They're doing at the gate, they're doing the numbers, and I think if the performance is sensational, it's going to put the winner of this fight in an unbelievable position.
That was a super long face-off, man. I think the record was like about a minute and a half, 2 minutes away or something like that.
I could have kept that going for another 10 minutes, but it does become a little bit boring, doesn't it, after all? I mean, I don't know. But then I said, guys, face the front, and then they wouldn't take their eyes off each other, then they went back. I thought it was about the perfect amount of time, but they were fired up. And I like the fact that, one of the British journalists said to me, yesterday, were you thinking it was going to get violent? Not really. At no time in this build-up have I actually thought things are going to get violent, which I think is great. Just two confident guys trying to stamp their authority and their territory on a fight, and the build-up couldn't have got any better.
Eddie, thoughts on a separate note, thoughts on Ricky Hatton getting into the International Boxing Hall of Fame? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend of boxing in the UK. You know, I think there's always people that you think should be in or shouldn't be in. He's a guy that, I think the Hall of Fame, you know, it's always down to credentials and ability, but it's also down to the nights that they created and the impact they had on sport. And when you talk about boxing in the UK, not many people created a fan base like Ricky Hatton. I mean, remember when he boxed Floyd Mayweather, they brought, I don't know, 30,000 Brits to Vegas. I think they only had 10,000 tickets. And, you know, a good fighter and a good man.
Is he the most, popular and beloved, UK fighter of last 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You know, when you talk about sizes of fan bases, Joshua's on another level to Ricky Hatton. But when you talk about fanatical, passionate people, Hatton was on another level to Joshua in that respect. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about people in the pubs. I'm talking about people in the football stands. They were Ricky Hatton's people. Whereas the bigger picture of an AJ is, men, women, grandmothers, aunties, uncles, kids, But yeah, Ricky Hatton had a fanatical following.
1 more minute, guys.
You feel like Eubank and Ben should get in eventually too?
Well, it's fucking, I mean, he's, Oh, the older guys. Yeah, I mean, Nigel Benn had a much better resume than Chris Eubank. Chris Eubank was probably the bigger draw. He was more of a showman. But he did beat Nigel Benn once, and probably Ben should have won the rematch. But I think the victory over Gerald McClellan is an underrated victory. I mean, if you watch that fight back, particularly the first round, Nigel Benn was out of that fight. It was one of the most brutal fights you will ever see. And that was actually a massive win. And you look at him coming over to the States, beating Aaron Barkley, other fighters as well, Lalonde. Like, he travelled around, he was in big fights. He got beat by Eubank and got beat by Michael Watson, which was a shock. Because he didn't always live the best life, but he was a very, very entertaining fighter. I think one of the all-time greats.
Eddie, where do you do that fight? In all honesty, what we know
Ben
about
Eubank. We're going to do it in the UK. We do it in the UK.
With no problems with certain organisations like
We do what we got to do. I'm not going to sit around when a guy is not banned or not suspended. I'm not going to just roll over and say, "Oh, okay." We've got to stand up for what we believe is right for this kid's career. He hasn't boxed in the UK for what will be coming up for 2 years. He was asked to go through two situations. One with the WBC hearing, he was cleared and reinstated in the rankings. He was asked to go through the UK hearing, who didn't even have jurisdiction over the tests, but he said, "I'll do it." He won the case and the suspension was lifted. Now the board want to appeal. I understand that, they've got the right to do it, but right now his suspension has been lifted and he's cleared to fight.
Has he been fairly treated by his own
I don't
people?
think so, but he's definitely made mistakes, and he's definitely not, I think out of ego and a bit of anger, he's definitely not played this perfectly. But he was asked to have a hearing. He won the hearing. He was found to be cleared and his suspension lifted.
So what's
Therefore,
the holdup exactly? Like, what's holding him?
the board are appealing the decision. So we say, no problem. But they're saying, no, we're not going to license you to fight because it's not in the best interest of the sport. Legally, that's incorrect. If you are not suspended, there is no reason to not let that. If Conor Benn was to lose the appeal, which he's not going to, then I understand. But right now he's cleared to box. That's why no one could stop him boxing in Orlando. Not even the British Boxing Board of Control. They were asked, is he suspended? Because Florida wouldn't let him fight if he was suspended. And the board said, no, he's not suspended. And Florida said, oh great, he's cleared to box. The British Boxing Board of Control should be doing the same. We need mega fights in Britain, and we're not prepared to stand by and watch a kid being mistreated who won a case and is not suspended, a restraint of trade, and not let him fight. So we are, listen, the deal's got to still be done. But I am all systems go for Conor Benn to get the opportunity to fight Chris Eubank. February the 3rd, Spurs in front of 70,000. A monster fight for British.
Does the difference in weight concern you at all? Or
a little bit, but Conor Benn is a Rottweiler. And he should be really at 154, but up at 160, it's a big task. He needs to win that fight inside 6 rounds. He can take Junior's head off, but he's in with a big middleweight as well. It's a brilliant fight.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you guys.